Hello, everyone. My name is David Serpa, and I am running for governor of California in 2026. And I want to start connecting with people directly because we're all struggling right now. People want to be able to afford $2 gas. We want to have $2 gas in the state of California. We want to be able to afford our groceries. We want to be able to afford our energy bills. And so when we look at all of the ways that California is failing, it's clear that one man didn't destroy California alone, and one man cannot save California alone. It's going to require a group effort. It's going to require a lot of us working together that may have not worked in politics before to come in and start addressing the system and start bringing fixes. Because at the end of the day, if you are just complaining without offering solutions, are you really being effective in leadership? We want to have financial freedom as Californians because freedom is economic freedom. And if you can't afford your bills and if you can't afford to decide what you want to do with some of your free time, then are you free? And so a lot of this needs to be addressed right now. And it's not about Steve Hilton, it's not about Sheriff Bianco. We'll talk about some of this tomorrow on the whole Why Am I Running for Governor show. It's not about Katie Porter or Kamala Harris. It is about a systemic failure in the state of California. And a systemic failure requires a systemic response. We have to get on the same page as Republicans, as independents, as people who may have not been involved in the political process. And part of that requires an education in the system. And that's what we're going to talk about here today. We're going to talk about why I know that California can flip in 2026, why we can fix this state in one election cycle because it's been done before. And I'm going to give you the historical precedents for why running as a team, as a squad, as a unit is the right thing to do. I'm going to talk to you about the people that failed California around Governor Newsom. It wasn't just Governor Newsom that failed. In fact, lately he's been running interference on some of the more crazy bills that have been being passed in Sacramento. And he's exercised his veto in the past. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him doing it again to try to save his reputation, to try to save the Democrats from themselves because of the way that they're failing the state of California. But also, we're going to talk about why the Republican Party, why this is the right place for the people's movement, an economic nationalist movement where we prioritize California first, Californians first, not just America first. I want to start looking at those 39 million Americans that are living in California, and somebody should be putting them at the top of their list for the people that they are trying to help. We're going to talk about why it's important to register Republican, and I'm going to give you a little view on tomorrow's show and what we're going to discuss then. We've got our first guest. We're going to talk about the debates in Van Nuys, the first gubernatorial debates. We're going to talk about why I'm running. I'm going to give you a little bit more of a detailed explanation, not just the buzzwords, not just the quick 3-second stump speech about why I'm running, but the real answer, the real look at why not lieutenant governor, why governor, what happened along the way, because this has been a process that started in January. And I'm going to talk to you about how to get organized. We're going to have our first open call Friday. You could call into the show. I'm going to take live calls here and ask your questions, give your input, because, like I said, it's not all about me, but I'm hoping to lead this movement. So jumping right in, I'm running for governor. We're going to flip it in 2026. It's been done before. One man cannot save the state alone. There's something called the executive branch. Now, the executive branch of government, these are like your chief officers. If your governor is your CEO, the chief executive officer, there are other officers that need to have leadership capabilities and need to be able to oversee their own departments. And Californians are being failed across the board. And I'm going to show you exactly why right now. I'm going to pull up my first graphic here. Now, I've been showing people, in fact, before we jump into that, we're going to talk about why I know California can be flipped in one election cycle. That's important because a lot of people are telling me, why should I help you? Why should I help any Republican. Why should I help any candidate? California is a sinking ship. I'm trying to get my family out of here or whatnot. But at the end of the day, there are a lot of people that are struggling. There are a lot of people that want to move back to California, that don't want to see their grandchildren and their children leave the state in order to succeed, in order to live. And so it's extraordinarily important for us to show people that not only can it be done, and this isn't just a wild act of faith, which it is in some ways, but it is something that there's a precedence for. Now, in now, Jimmy Carter was a catastrophic failure as president. And I feel like with the catastrophic failures that we have been having right now in the state of California, we have an opportunity to have a Jimmy Carter moment. When Reagan brings it back, and he did it by showing who his executives were going to be, the people that he was going to hire around him. So let's go ahead and let's jump into this right now. Here we go. And I'm going to show you the 3 examples for why I know we can change this in one election cycle. So President Reagan's catastrophic defeat of President Carter in 1980, the great communicator, the big tent Republican Party. Reagan did a lot of great things for Republicans. Now, if you look in 1994, there is historical precedence. Now, people forget that Texas was blue for a long time. It was a blue state for years. In fact, Texas had 3 Republican governors and 0 Republican lieutenant governors in 187 years. When Karl Rove and George Bush got together, they decided they were going to target the executive branch in 25 Senate and Assembly seats, later known as the Texas 25. They won 23 of those 25 seats in one election cycle, and Texas has had a Republican governor and lieutenant governor for the past 30 years. Now, when President Trump defeated Vice President Harris, he went at it differently than he went at it the first time. He went at it with a team of people around him that were experts in their respective fields on educating, and then he went about educating Americans on how what these different departments were, what needed to be done exactly in order to go into those services, and why they were failing, that they exist in the first place. And that's a lot of what's going on right now in California. You have a lot of industrial complexes where there's a homeless industrial complex where indefinitely money is thrown at the problem, but nothing is ever really solved. We're constantly throwing money at education. In fact, over 50% of our state's budget is thrown to education. And are we getting the results? And if our teachers were the highest paid teachers in the country, and if our students were the best educated in the world, I don't think any of us would be complaining about it, but they're not, and we aren't. So it's important to show that there is a precedence that California can be won in one election cycle, that we're going to have to get organized. We're going to have to get on the same page in order to do it. But what we have to present to the people is that it's not just Governor Newsom, and we're going to jump into that right now. He is surrounded by people that have failed Californians. They have failed the state of California, and a couple of them think that that qualifies them to run for governor. And so we need to start understanding who these people are, and we're going to jump in right now. Now, we all know about Governor Newsom, and a lot of people point to him as the only reason why the state of California is failing and has failed and is going to continue to fail. But he's just one of a lot of people that have catastrophically misrepresented Californians. And so let's go through all of them and exactly who they are and what their job is. Now, the first one is Eleni Kounalakis, and she believes that she's now qualified to run for governor. But the problem is that she's failed the state of California. She's in charge of the University of California system, the state California state colleges, and also the junior colleges. And do you feel like education is better, more affordable, that we are graduating more people than we were before? And we're going to jump in a little bit more in detail to exactly what the executive branch does and what they do. But today is just an overview. So jumping back into this branch. Shirley Weber, we all know that the state of California has the worst ran elections in the country. It's become a joke. Governor Newsom himself said that we have some of the worst ran elections. He did it on his podcast with Charlie Kirk. Now, there's a person that is responsible for that, and her name is Shirley Weber, and she is the Secretary of State. Now, the Secretary of State, that's just one of their jobs. And in fact, jumping back a little bit to Alani and the Lieutenant Governor, her job is she's also a foreign relations officer for foreign countries. It's her job to negotiate and be our representative and our diplomat to Mexico and to China. And are we being represented properly on the global scale? Jumping back to Shirley Weber, because a lot of these branches overlap. Now, not only is she responsible for elections, she's responsible for records, the business, the management, and she's our chief relations officer to other states, to Arizona, New Mexico, and she could help us start working towards fixing our water issues. Now, the state treasurer determines where the money is spent. They're basically the Bank of California. Who gets paid? How much do they get paid? They are setting us up for failure. They're setting us up for success. And when I look at this position in the state of California, I look at an opportunity for us to not just keep charging people tax revenue, keep increasing people's taxes, which is indefinite, and it continues to increase our property taxes, our sales taxes, but we should start figuring out how to invest public funds in a way that yields a dividend, in a way that puts us in the green, not just continuously operating in a perpetual deficit, that's what we do. Every year we end up operating in a deficit, and we're the fourth largest economy in the world. And that's something that Governor Newsom likes to brag about right now. We're the fourth largest economy in the world. Where are we investing our money, Fiona? Where are we investing our money, State Treasurer? A lot of us are calling for a Doge of California. And you hear this pretty regularly. You hear, we need to Doge California, audit California. That's actually a job. The job belongs to the state controller. It is Malia Cohen's job to audit the state of California. And when I look at not only the bullet train to nowhere, when I look at the lottery money that was supposed to save our schools, when I look at the $7.9 billion in water infrastructure that we all voted for, when I look at the additional $2 billion in arts and music funding that we all voted for, when I look at all of this money that is being spent all over the state, it's something that I would want to have results for. I'd want to track where the money is being spent, whether or not we are getting juice for that squeeze. And if not, we need to reallocate those funds. So it is the job of the state controller to audit California. And I have people in mind for all of these positions. And I think that you'd be very excited to find out who some of these people are. We're going to talk about my thought process on Monday for how I've been driving all over the state of California for the last 10 weeks, meeting with people about how we can have them replace these positions and be effective at their jobs so that we go in with a unified message, because it's not just one person, like I said, that's going to save the state of California. It has to be a bunch of people working together with a unifying message, a cohesive message where they are all experts in their respective fields. Now, going on next to Tony Thurmond. Now, are you happy with the state of education in California? I've heard that we're ranked 49th out of 50th. There are other places that put us even lower than that. What has happened to education in the state of California? It has been a catastrophic failure. It is our parents feel like their children aren't going to school to learn about the basics, and we're going off on these wild things that our children don't even need to be learning. We need to bring trade certificate programs, licensing programs into the schools. We need to make sure that our children are ready to launch after their 12th grade education. But instead, they're not even schooled in the basics. They have to go to junior college to catch up, to become proficient. They end up becoming massively indebted to the university system when it is a public university system and it is not serving the public. We could get more into that later. But the superintendent of public instruction is an incredibly important job because they oversee more than 50% of the state budget. That's a lot of our money. And if you think that Tony Thurmond is doing well by the state of California, I have a bridge to nowhere to sell you. Now, insurance commissioner, is there a bigger failure right now in the state of California than Ricardo Lara? He's MIA. When he has these meetings that he's supposed to be the head of, he's not even there to be found, not even in the country. He's going off on vacation. Meanwhile, people are staring into the wreckage of their homes and wondering when they'll be able to rebuild. And the problem is not only the way that we don't prevent fires from happening in the state of California, we don't prevent natural disasters and prepare for disaster readiness, but our response to the fires is often cataclysmic, and it destroys the properties, and it destroys the soil. There is a new form of technology that drops fertilizer. It's base fertilizer. It's not going to ignite the moment that you drop it on the fire, but what it does is it quenches the fire, but it also seeds the ground. And so we have opportunities to start fighting fire in a different way so that it does not destroy our forest. It doesn't destroy our communities when we need to rebuild, but in fact, it puts out the fire while making it possible for us to continue to move forward and redevelop our homes, redevelop our churches, redevelop our businesses and our communities. Now, instead of being an effective insurance commissioner and making it possible for insurance to exist in the state of California, which insurance is about 7% of any healthy economy, he created government competition, and often a government monopoly called the FAIR Plan. Now, I've been talking to people about running for insurance commissioner that are experts in their respective field. There's one person specifically that I really wanted to do it, but she is not interested. We'll talk a little bit more about that on Monday. Now, moving on to the next person in our list of failures around Governor Newsom is Attorney General Rob Bonta. Now, he is, Governor Newsom perpetually is talking about how we do not need to be sparring partners in a court of war with the Trump administration. And yet he bragged in the same breath of air that his administration has sued President Trump's administration in his first term, over 100 times and this and that. What do we feel like is really being done in the courts right now? Now, your attorney general is supposed to be the person that is making sure that there's law and order in the state of California. Their job is not to run interference with the state, with the federal government indefinitely to sue them. It would be nice if we started cooperating, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it be nice if we could get on the same page with our federal government? Because California, being the fourth largest economy in the world, sending a great deal of tax revenue to the federal government, I would like to see a lot more of that revenue staying in the state of California, coming back to the state of California. You have enough that you are responsible for, Attorney General. You have enough that you need to be doing, that you don't need to be constantly sparring with the Trump administration. And I'm disappointed by Governor Newsom's leadership, because he could have created a healthy working environment in that first term, and instead it was constant sparring. Now, it's not just Newsom that has failed the state of California. It's clear. I understand it's very easy to look at the person at the top of the pyramid, and I've done that as well. And it is his responsibility. He is the failure. But the thing is, are your elections ran properly? No? Okay, well, there's a person that's responsible for that. Do you feel good about our university system in the state of California? No, there's somebody to hold responsible for that. Do you feel good about the way that our money is being spent in the state of California, where it's being spent? That's good. Well, there's somebody to hold accountable for that. Are you happy with the frivolous nature of government spending and the lack of auditing that's happening? There's somebody to hold responsible. Are you frustrated with education in our public schools? There's somebody to hold responsible. Are you frustrated with insurance and the fact that it's doubled, quadrupled, or even become impossible to get in the state of California? There's someone to hold responsible. Are you frustrated with the lack of law and order in the state of California and the lack of justice in our justice system currently? There's someone to hold responsible for that. And it's important that we start knowing who they are and what they have done and what they haven't done. to represent us here in California. Now, I understand a lot of people are looking at me and they're saying, well, why the Republican Party? Why? And I get it, and I attack the Republican Party. I want to make it very clear. The Republican Party is also responsible for the failures in the state of California because we have failed to offer a viable alternative party platform. We failed to offer candidates that can get up there and articulate their message and then get behind the ones that actually can. Instead, when there's a great candidate that's running for something, we often see a last minute sacrificial lamb thrown into the race in the Republican Party that doesn't have a hope of winning, that can't articulate a message, but it's almost like there's a lot of money to be raised by being the party of losers, for being the participation trophy party, for a party that really comes down on participation trophies. We're sure stacking participation trophies in the state of California as Republicans. So I don't want to be the party of losers anymore. I don't want to be the party of complainers, the party that has nothing to say. We need to be a party that is cohesive, that is working together, that is offering a viable alternative platform, that is able to articulate our message, be great communicators, create a big tent Republican Party so that we can stop being such principled losers, because that's what we are currently. And we're going to talk more about my message. We're going to talk about my contract with California that we're drafting. We're going to include you in on drafting that contract with California, what you think is missing, what you don't like. And we're going to make it a document that we are preparing together as Californians. It's a movement, and this movement needs to be supported with infrastructure. And I've been going around throughout the state of California showing this presentation to people, talking about the Republican Regiment and our 5 battalions within it, and how we can get organized. But first, we need to understand how we're failing. Now, of course, the Republican Party has failed, but we need to step up and build the infrastructure that's already there. We need to get cohesive. We need to get on the same page. And what we're going to do right now is we're going to talk about why I decided that the Republican Party is the right party for an economic nationalist California first movement, where we prioritize not just America first, but prioritize Californians first in our 4th largest economy in the world. Okay, I'm going to pull up the next infograph here, and I'm going to read this to you. This is something that I wrote, and it's not meant to be unnecessarily combative with the Democrats, but at the end of the day, my beef is not with the Democrats. My beef is with the Democratic Party. And I've got issues with the Republican Party. Understand, I'm always ready to fight with everyone, but I'm always willing to work with everyone. And that's kind of what's been missing lately, isn't it? So why the Republican Party? Let's go ahead and let's bring this up. And I want to show you this. Okay, the Republican Party is not the party of Davos. Oh, here, let me pull that back up. I apologize. The Republican Party is not the party of Davos, the globalists, or the oligarchs. And I know that AOC and Bernie, every couple of years they decide all of a sudden they're against the oligarchs again whenever it's convenient and time to raise money. But the Republican Party is not the party of Davos. We're not the party of the globalists or the oligarchs. The Republican Party is the party of the people. We believe we are the party of the working class, the middle class, and trickle-down economics. We believe in millionaires who create other millionaires, and investors who invest in more than speculation, and honest work for honest pay. The Republican Party is the party of compassion, innovation, and where a sympathetic heart meets a working brain. Again, I'm not here to be mean to the Democrats. I understand that you have been abandoned by your party. There is no opportunity for a populist movement in the Democratic Party because the DNC has shown you that they won't allow it to happen. And honestly, we're going to talk about this more on another show. We're going to dedicate some time to this. The Democratic Party will never let Katie Porter win. They'll never let her be the representative. We've seen this before. The Democratic Party has a love-hate relationship with the squad, with AOC, with Bernie, and we saw it in 2016, and we saw it in 2020, And we saw it again in 2024 with the way that the DNC ran their elections. And we saw that people feel Democrats understand that their election process was taken from them, and their populist candidate, Bernie Sanders, had his movement hijacked, and he let it happen. He let it happen. And so when we talk about the party of the oligarchy, that's the Democratic Party. Overwhelmingly, that's the Democratic Party. And so we're going to talk about this one more time. I want to read it to you. I want to make sure that you see it. The Republican Party is not the party of Davos, the globalists, or the oligarchs. The Republican Party is the party of the people. We are the home of the working class, the middle class, and trickle-down economics. We believe in millionaires who create other millionaires, investors who invest in more than speculation, and honest work for honest pay. The Republican Party is the party of compassion, innovation, and where a sympathetic heart meets a working brain. I feel like a lot of us can agree there. And if we can agree there, then welcome to the big tent Republican Party. Welcome to the populist movement that we're creating within the Republican Party. Now, you also need to understand that it's important to register Republican. Why is it important to register Republican? Because if you don't register, I'm not going to show up on your ballot. You won't be able to vote for me. But not only that, you need to register Republican, because if you're thinking about running for office and you haven't registered Republican, or you haven't been showing up to participate in the elections or whatnot, it can prevent you from being endorsed by the Republican Party later. You have to have at least 1 year with the Republican Party registered in order to run for office and be endorsed by the Republican Party. And of course, that 1 year mark is coming up here very soon, the elections are in 1 year and 1 month from today. Okay, or 1 year and 1 month and 4 days, I believe. But who needs to be so specific? Now, what have we been doing, and why do I need to wrap this broadcast up here in about 15 minutes? I'm going to include you in on this every day. I'm going to let you know exactly what we've been doing, give you an idea of who we've been doing it with. And I can tell you right now, in any startup business, you have to put in sweat equity, and you have to seed capital. And the biggest thing that I've been doing for the last 10 weeks is not only formulating a plan, but I've been meeting with donors. And I've been getting people and having specific conversations with people who want to spend money in the state of California, who are tired of the lack of representation that we've been having, because we don't have a bench. We don't have players in the game to choose from, because the Conservative Party continuously loses elections. We don't have a bench of principled Republicans to stand from. And so we have to recruit people from the outside that are not necessarily able to be, that haven't been involved just yet. And talking people into running for office is a good thing, but as a Republican, a lot of these people, they have jobs, are making more money than they would make in public service. They've got a lot of opportunities for them. And whereas a lot of what the left recruits from is a lot of academia. And so people spend their time in academia learning so much of what isn't true. And then they try to run for office and they never ran anything in their life. And then they end up being in a little bit of trouble. But I've been going all over the state of California. I've been talking about how there are 49 million acres of public land in the state of California, that we need to duplicate a lot of the same things that have been working on a federal level that President Trump is implementing. We need to catch up our housing. We need to build, 2.5 million homes in the state of California in order to catch up. When is the last time that we built a new city? We've got 48 million acres, and almost 50% of California belongs to the public. We know we need homes. As a capitalist, I understand that the cost of something continues to go up until you introduce more product into the market. And when you introduce more product, the price of something comes down. And that's the case with housing. You build more housing, the cost of housing comes down. That's the case with oil. Every time you fill up your gas tank, we drill for oil here. We continue to refine oil here and stop shutting down oil refineries. The cost of gas goes down. If we continue to decommission nuclear power plants and not invest in energy grids, our energy bill goes up because the lack of energy that we've been investing in is not there. What we've continuously been doing in California is trying to capitalize on scarcity instead of banking on abundance, which is really what I want to do. I want to build the infrastructure for abundance. we could talk more about that. But tomorrow we're going to have our first guest on the show. His name's Kobe Markham. He's also running for governor, and he has organized the first debate in Van Nuys on the 9th, which is in 8 days from now. I'm invited. I'm going to be there. We're going to tell you who's going to be there. Unfortunately, it's not open to the public, but it will be streamed live on several platforms. Kobe will tell you how to watch, who's going to be there. We're going to talk about why I'm running specifically for governor, not lieutenant governor. I'm going to tell you what happened with Sheriff Bianco. And spoiler alert, I'm not going to be talking poorly about my sheriff. I'm not going to be bashing him just because I've decided to run for governor. There's a lot of things that need to be done. There's a way that I believe that this campaign needs to be ran. And if we're not going to run it that way, we're going to be set up like Arnold Schwarzenegger, where you've got one person at the top of the ticket, and you don't have control of the Senate, and you don't have control of the Assembly, and you don't have control of the executive branch, so nothing gets done, and everything continues to get worse. Instead, like I said earlier in the show, we're going to go at it the way that it's been done before, like Reagan did when he chose his executive branch, like Bush and Rove did in Texas in '94 when they chose their executive branch and their 25 state Senate and Assembly members. We're going to do it the way that President Trump did in '24 when he brought in a coalition of candidates like Tulsi Gabbard and RFK and Pete Hegseth and all of these different people that were experts in their respective fields that people could get excited about following in under their leadership. We're going to talk. We're going to have our first open call Friday. I'm going to post my cell phone number on the page live tomorrow. I'm going to field calls live, and we're going to get your questions. I'm going to answer them for you. And then we're going to get organized. Okay? So thank you all for watching. I appreciate the viewership. Kathy said, Hillary's my mom. My mom worked on my campaign. She was a wonderful gift to the world and a wonderful gift to my campaign in the last election cycle. Unfortunately, she did end up getting cancer. She's now cancer-free, and she's so ready to start working on my campaign and so ready to start helping me out. And, of course, Kathy Cowson, it was a huge support, a huge volunteer for us. And we appreciate you so much, Kathy, and all the Kathys for everything that you guys continue to do for the campaign. I know that you guys are excited. What time tomorrow am I going live? So tomorrow, the plan is that I want to go live every day at 9 o'clock for an hour, talking directly with you, the people, giving you an opportunity to chime in. Tomorrow, we're going to do an open call. And the goal is that I'm pressing record. We're going live at 9 o'clock. Today, there were some issues because I'm working out the bugs myself. I want to make sure that I'm available to everybody because we're going to do this together. We are going to save the state of California. We are going to bring this home. We are going to make it so that our babies can buy a house here, that our children are being properly educated, that energy is abundant and affordable, that our groceries are affordable and our farmers are thriving, that we're bringing back technology and innovation to the place where it all started, that we're bringing back a manufacturing middle class that people can be excited about, building the future, vertical takeoff and landing vehicles. How fun would that be? As one of the home, the birthplace of flight. And I understand that North Carolina has their claim to that, but California has been at the birthplace of manufacturing a middle class. We're going to bring back Hollywood and film and television, and we're going to bring back competition, and we're going to make it so that so much is fixed, and we're not going to do it alone. I miss you too, Leslie. Thank you so much, Michael. David, I agree with you that affordable housing needs to be built. However, capitalism alone without some oversight is not effective. Michael, you're 100% right. What we have is a sort of bastardized version of capitalism called crony capitalism. But what's happened with development is it's only affordable to build luxury housing or to build high density housing for developers. And that's not what we want. That's not what we want. We want to have more single family homes, more 1,400 square foot, 2,000 square foot starter homes that people can afford to move into, that can be a bridge into the middle class, a bridge into the upper class, that can give people an opportunity to purchase a part of their community, a part of the American dream, because that's so incredibly important. But that being said, people don't want to have a bunch of high density housing built into their neighborhoods. And that being said, the people moving into high density housing, a lot of them would often prefer to buy a single family residence. Now, that also being said, there's 5 different development companies that are building new cities where there are none. Some of them that don't have a great reputation. I feel like a lot of that is slander from the government and government officials. But we have people that want to address the issue. Some of them want to create walkable cities. And I know that the 15-minute cities, walkable cities freak people out. Some people want to live that way. And maybe one of those 5 cities is something like that. But through private public partnerships, we can invest in something as Californians which perpetually yields a dividend, which is real estate. Why wouldn't we want to be investing in real estate and making sure that it's affordable for people and flooding the market with homes? Wahoo, Serpa for governor. Thank you so much, Susie. Okay, guys, I'm really excited about this run. I'm really grateful for all of you watching. It has been a long road, this last 10 weeks, and I'm going to be including you in on more and more of it as we get to go. Plus, I'm going to include you in on the things that I am doing as I'm doing them. And I'm telling you that today I'm heading out to Newport Beach. I'm meeting with a vice president of a very important organization that is also working on a similar thing that I'm working on. We're going to see where we can work together. And then I'm also hopefully going to be meeting somebody that I think would be an excellent lieutenant governor. So that's Monday's show, though. Monday's show, I'm going to show you in, and I believe that that's Monday. Monday, I'm probably the most excited about showing everybody because we're going to talk about the executive branch. I'm going to give you the details on exactly the way that the executive branch works. And then I'm going to tell you either who I want, who I'm talking to, who I have talked to about those positions. And I'm going to include you in on a little bit of what I've been working on the last 10 weeks. Thank you all so much for watching. We are going to save California. We're going to do it together because it's not all about me. It's about us, we the people. See you tomorrow morning. Thank you so much for watching. We'll talk to you soon.